Welcome to the Thrive TV Show with Lauren Parsons, helping you boost your health, energy, and productivity.
Kia ora koutou and welcome to another episode of the Thrive TV Show. I'm Lauren Parsons, your host, and today I'm joined by my good friend JP, John Polley, all the way from Perth. Welcome, JP.
Well, thank you. Well, it's nice to have you all welcome, and it's so nice to be talking to you over there in Aotearoa, and a place that kind of has so many emotional ties for me.
Yes, we met, I think, many years ago, first at the National Health and Fitness Convention, and we've been firm friends ever since. And I'm so thrilled today we get to talk about, are you digging in the wrong place? And JP is going to unpack for us how our bodies really reflect our mental, emotional, and physical history, recent, distant past. Also how issues can manifest in one place but be created elsewhere, and most of all, what we can do practically to help find the right solutions to overcome problems. So really excited. But first, JP, I'd love to go through my this and that questions with you, if that's okay. So tell me, spots or stripes?
Spots.
Spots, okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Nice. Would you rather be on a mountaintop or on a beachfront?
Beach.
Nice. A week without the internet or a week without your car?
Or internet.
Okay, nice. All right. Would you rather be able to play 10 musical instruments beautifully or speak 10 languages fluently?
Languages.
Okay. All right. Same for me. And chocolate or cake?
You're really... These are really hard-hitting questions.
What was that? Sorry, I missed it.
Cake.
Cake. Okay, cake. And lastly, fresh salad or hot veggies?
Hot veggies.
Okay, beautiful. So JP is an award-winning educator in movement and wellbeing. His approach is to explore the human condition as an interconnected whole, understanding that all the factors, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, affect what we experience on a daily basis. His focus is on living life fully and joyfully. So, JP, can you tell us a bit about how did you get into what it is you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as you've already mentioned, we met at a fitness conference. So it was 2013, and you won an award. I seem to remember too. I couldn't believe I was sat next to someone winning awards.
Yes.
So I changed direction at the age of 35, and I had a furniture company. So obviously there's this natural movement into fitness. I lost my mum, and it got me thinking about all the things that I wasn't doing, I wanted to do, and who I was, and all those big, deep searching questions.
Yeah.
And I went into the fitness industry, and I became a personal trainer and a sports massage therapist. And then I started learning more and more, and it was obvious that the human condition wasn't just a physical thing, wasn't just affected by physical things. And I started teaching all that physical stuff, a couple of years later, and then I was presenting at conferences within another year from that, and master trainer, and I was in this kind of fitness industry, and it was like, it's so physical, which is an obvious thing to say, but I kept seeing all these things that didn't make sense from the physical. So then I started learning more and more about how all the systems of the body, physical systems of the body, affect each other. We've got this, myofascial system, the muscle and connective tissues, but how does the circulator in the digestive system and the lymphatic system and our hydration and all those other systems, it's central nervous system, how do they all affect us? And then what's affecting them? Well, there's all this stuff that you can't even see or touch. There's our mental state, there's our emotional state, there's our energetic state, there's how we respond to the environment. And before you know it, I'm in all these rabbit holes where I've realized that we have often been digging in the wrong place, which is that classic, statement from the movie, one of the Indiana Jones movie, the early ones, where they've followed the clues, and then what they've realized is they've ended up in a different place, and the Nazis are digging in the wrong place. Yeah. And that's the thing with us, is that we can follow these clues, which seem so obvious, and they'll take us to the wrong place.
So you're talking about when we have the ache in the shoulder, the sore back, the sore hip, the ankle problem, whatever it is, that actually there's a whole lot more to that? Is that what we're going to dive into today?
And that's the physical manifestation. But I mean, it can be a manifestation in such that you literally you can't think, or you just can't learn. You can't learn something, for example. Our responses to stress. But I'll give you a couple of examples. So I still see the odd person. I might see 1 or 2 people a month, normally online, because they'll come in from all over the world, and they'll have been dealing with something chronic. I can't, and it'll quite often manifest in a pain. I've had this back pain. Everyone's had a go, and I can't get. I've had this knee pain. I'll give you an example. I saw a lady last week, and she said, I'm getting these deep aches all through my finger joints. I'm like, well, okay then. Well, from a myofascial perspective, from a muscle and connective tissue perspective, these join in at your neck and shoulders and all through here. And sure enough, she's just solid all through there. And we gave her some physical relief through there, and this pain went away from the fingers, right? So the fingers are the pain, they're the place that you're digging. You keep kind of massaging them and giving them some love and some cream and all the rest of it, and nothing changes. And then you find that, okay, then, so, we've found the right place. Yeah, but why are they tight and solid in the first place? Well, if you explore a few more of the clues, and my forms have mental, emotional, and physical questions on them, what you find out is actually, if you look at diagrams of the emotional places, physical places that we experience anger, it's all through our arms, upper chest, head, and neck.
Okay.
And it turned out that she's been experiencing a lot of that she's been suppressing because, we need to be nice people, don't we? So I look through that and I go, okay, then, because we keep giving her relief through the neck and shoulders, which gives her relief in the fingers, but it keeps coming back every day, well, something else is causing that. So her kind of, prescription in inverted commas is she needs to find an outlet for that, a healthy outlet for that. And I gave her a number of different ways that she can do that, including just talking, having someone that she can talk to, right? So there we are. So we find the kind of the root of that, which has a physical thing, which leads to another physical thing, which is causing pain. But we've gone through all of the things. We've given her a coping strategy, physical, but somewhere to go with the deeper stuff that's going on in her life, because effectively that's a life satisfaction issue. So her sore fingers is a life satisfaction issue that is just crazy. Anyway, that's last week. But, a classic would be a guy that came in with 10 years of neck pain. Same kind of thing, went through everything. Physically, he was great. He'd been to see everyone. He was doing all the right things. But actually, his life was completely engulfed by either work or young baby at home.
Wow.
What happened 10 years ago that changed? He stopped surfing. He stopped having time for himself. He had a life dissatisfaction, which was creating low-level motor unit activity all through his core muscles, which then meant that in order to lift his head, he was fighting this tightness down in his core. So his neck would constantly be in pain because he's fighting this tightness that's in his body, and the tightness that was in his body was from life. So again, and I tend to just see people once because it's about finding what really is there. But as you know, sometimes people have just been doing new things and their physical bodies are aching because they're not conditioned to those things. It can be that too.
Right. Wow. So for people that are listening in, I'm sure everyone's, like if you're like me, picturing the aches and pains we've had or the things that have gone on and really interested in this, because it's how often are we digging in the wrong place? And that's so interesting, those examples. And you talk about the mental emotional load and how that then relates. So can you tell us a bit more about how the body ends up displaying these things that you talked about, how it's not just our recent history, but also our distant past? Tell us a bit more about that.
There's some really interesting stuff. If you speak to people who look at the immune system, what they can often do is there's different immune pathways that we have, and they should all be in balance. Th1, Th2, Th17, just to name a few, right? And Th1, for example, is catabolic. It breaks you down. And sometimes we need that because we might have a growth in our body and it needs to be broken down. And Th2 is growth because sometimes we need that because we're being broken down. We need to be built up again. But if they're in balance, these things are responding in the way that they should. What the immune health people are finding is that there can be a trauma in your childhood, for example, that sets off a dominance in an immune pathway. So maybe it sets you off and you become Th1 dominant. Yeah, and I'll talk to this because that was me, right? So you become Th1 dominant. It could be an emotional trauma. It could be glandular fever. It could be a car accident, right? It can be physical as well as mental or emotional, yeah? And so you become Th1 dominant, which means certain foods, certain behaviors, and certain environments will continue you on the path of catabolic, of breaking down your system. So you will be constantly ill, for example. But people with allergies, for example, they will tend to be Th2 dominant. Yeah, so they'll have these allergies to different things because the body's overproducing. It's stuck in this more dominant growth mode. So again, there's behaviors and foods and all the rest of it that will drive you towards Th1 in order to balance those pathways. So yeah, right from childhood, but equally that crash that you came off your bike when you were 5 years old, and you dislocated your knee and it got put back, but you never truly favored that leg again. So then what happened is your hips went out of alignment, and then that created a back issue and scoliosis in your back, and it left you with neck pain, right? But actually what we'll do is we'll look to trace it back to that original knee issue. What alignment issues have gone on there? What lack of strength in certain places? What overly compensating in other places? How can we bring those hips in better alignment in order for the neck to finally feel better? There's that too. So it's an amazing thing, but it's just really how good a detective are you, and how many areas are you able to look at on the map? Because some haven't got enough of the map to be able to look at, just like digging in the wrong place and not the clues.
Yeah. And I think that's what we so often do, It's like earlier this year, I've had a lot of pain in my left Achilles, just real tightness and pain in my left Achilles. And I've been doing quite a bit of running regularly with a friend. And it's okay when I'm running, but it's, I've been limping in between, and I've been stretching it. And I keep thinking, what is causing this? What is causing this? What can I do about this? Why is it just in the one side? What's going on? And it's, really evident to me that, our bodies are so interconnected. But at the same time, I'm not an expert. So I'm looking at that going, what do I do next?
Well, exactly. And the fact that it's the left is kind of interesting to me as well. So for example, when I was just working with the physical body, I was looking at them, and even then I was working beyond the muscular system. It was the myofascial system, so muscles and connective tissue, and there's elastic bands of this stuff around our body. So we don't have anything working in isolation. Everything works together. But what I noticed was that, and this was a thing to do with females and left hips. So female left hip, if they've been going through some stress, and it could be recent, but most of the time it tends to be for a period of time, a few months worth, the inner hip on the left-hand side tended to tighten. So that meant that if you imagine an elastic band traveling up and down your body, and you tie a few knots in it halfway on your left side, well, then by the time you get to your feet, you're overstretching. So normally the manifestation is an overstretched, overworked part of the tissue somewhere as a result of some tightness, some difficulties, some sticky gluiness somewhere else in the body. But why is that sticky gluiness there in the first place? Well, again, we can speculate, but it's better not to speculate. It's better to take a history. But so for me, you've gone through a stressful year. I think it's well documented, certainly in your mind and heart.
Yeah, and for those that are listening, if they don't know the history, our home was flooded, my home office was flooded. We've had 9 months of just a real roller coaster of a year. So yeah, totally happy for you to relate it to that, because I'm sure it's linked. Yeah.
Yeah. So that there's that lockdown. By the way, in men, this is anecdotal evidence. By the way, I've seen about 1,000 people, so it's reasonably reliable. But women and left hip, when there's trauma, especially emotional trauma, men and right, like it's just. And
so why is that? I mean, can I just jump in? Because my mind's jumping to why is it the left hip?
And that's where I'd be going, okay, then speak to a somatic therapist.
Yeah.
or an energy medicine worker, because they'll talk more about, the male and female sides of those systems. I'm not an expert in that area, but what I'll note these things, and it's pretty fascinating to see. So for me, I'd be going, okay, then what I'd like to do is spend 2 hours with you and we can unpack mental, emotional, physical. But if I was to say, hey, here's a little, enjoyable speculation, is that could well be the case. So it would be, I would go into that and going, okay, then when I do the movement part of your appraisal, I'd be going, I bet in the deep front line, which is the tissues that we're talking about here, they're deep in your body, but through the left hip, I bet we're going to see a limitation in Lauren's movement during that, which can manifest in lots of different ways. Yeah. So, it could equally be a tight jaw, for example. That's the thing. And when I say tight, I mean tension in the jaw, probably because it's working too hard. So it's probably actually not tight, but taut and long. So there's all of those things as well. And the reason that I'm linking mental, emotional, and physical, and in a way that might annoy some people, because everyone might say, well, come on, it's going to have a physical root because it's a physical thing, right? Is that our brains react to whatever stress is in the same way and set off changes at the cellular level in the same way. So if you were under mental stress right now, I couldn't see or touch that. But if you were under physical stress, I could see it, So, but our brains are constantly, they're stuck in this box, aren't they, on the top of our shoulders. You can't see anything. So they have sensors that go out into the body. And if I may just indulge for a moment, or you indulge me for a moment, the thing that really got me was when I read a book called How Emotions Are Made by a lady called Lisa Feldman Barrett.
Okay.
And she talked about these nerve endings that we have throughout our body, which I was familiar with, called interoceptors, the interoceptive work. And what they are, they're nerve endings, and they tell us about our internal state. So here we go with that. They are telling us about our internal state. So if you are under mental stress right now, which you can't see or touch, there will be physical signatures of that in your body. There will be tension in your body, right? The interoceptors know if you're tense. They'll detect things like thirst and heart rate and respiration, all of those things. So our internal environment, we have these nerve endings that are feeding back to the brain what's going on, and the brain will act accordingly. Now, our emotional state, we feel emotions physically in our body. If I was to say, describe how your body feels when you are feeling joy compared to how it feels when you are feeling sorrow, they're two very different things, and you feel them in your body. And there is some research that's actually got people to draw in different colors in their body where they feel certain emotions, and it's fascinating. The interoceptors are telling you what emotions you're feeling too. So they'll set off something in your brain. Now, stage 2 of this little thing is that all the areas responsible for something called body budgeting in the brain are affected by interoceptors and emotions. What they call interoceptors and affect. Brain body budgeting regions of the brain, so they're all affected by that. What they do is you get up in the morning, you have a certain amount of energy for the day, and your brain will go, well, the left hip's tight. She's feeling pain in the left Achilles. We're going to need energy to deal with that. She's got a certain amount of workload on. We're going to need energy for that. And it will budget how much energy you need. And then whatever's left, that's what you have for your day. So if we're under a lot of stress, or we're going through a hard time and our physical bodies are breaking down, or our immune system is under stress, our environment isn't great for us, or we're doing it to ourselves with poor diet and lack of hydration, our interoceptors will tell the brain, you need to budget for this. The things that will be taken away as your number 1 and 2 to gain more energy are movement and learning. Our ability to move and our ability to learn, they are the most energy expensive things, right? So our brain function and our physical function. So if people are just sluggish, and you see what I mean? It might not be anything to do with I need to eat the right, I need an energy drink. It might actually mean that it's a signal for us to sort our life out, quite frankly, right? Because, or maybe you can't think straight because you're just overwhelmed. There's not enough energy for you to learn something new. I say to people sometimes, those university exams, when you're studying and nothing's going in, you're cooked. You're nothing left. Your brain is going, I've got no energy for that. I'm not going to let you learn. It's expensive. We don't have the energy for it, right? So that's the thing. So our brains will then budget whether we've got the energy. So if you're feeling constantly tired and yet you're doing a lot of the things right, then that's your brain body budgeting regions are kicking in at that point in time. So then it's a matter of going, well, if they're affected by my emotional state and my interoceptive network, these nerve endings that are throughout my body telling me if I'm all right on the inside or not, they don't lie. So how do I affect my interoceptive state, right? How do I affect these nerve endings? How do I tell them that things are actually quite good? And that's where we're starting to climb back out of this hole that we're in, right?
So how do we do that? Because that's what I feel like I'd love to zero in on. How do we send that message?
So the things with those is the three that I talk about the most, because it encompasses so much, and I'll unpack that afterwards, but we might as well give you those first of all, is unbelievably simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do things that you love.
Yeah, great.
You spend time with people that you love.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to places that you love.
Nice.
So if you can combine the thing, you do something that you love with people that you love in an environment that you love. So this is why we're all so good on holiday, because we're doing all of those things. We need to find ways of bringing that more into our life, because what we know is, for example, social connection. Good social relationships are charted as the number one factor above what you eat, whether you smoke, whether you drink, number one factor for health and longevity in a study that ran for 77 years called the Harvard study.
Amazing.
Right? It's the number one marker for health and longevity is good social relationships. And incidentally, the reverse is also true. For shorter, sicker lives, poor social relationships.
Yeah, so this is so true. And for me, it's interesting because you might have heard of the 5 love languages, which, Gary Chapman, amazing work. My husband and I, we've agreed that I actually have a 6th one. And the 6th love language for me is board games. So spending quality time, usually with family, even better with groups of friends come around playing board games. It's like if I have a board game deficit, then I'm sure it shows up in lots of different ways in my body, but that is something that I love doing with people that I love doing, in a place that I love doing it. So I really think this is really great practical advice, and the thing I'm picturing is how do we apply that? Because for me, I realize it's like I need to actually just fit it in regularly.
Well, look at the guy with neck pain I mentioned earlier. He needs to do something that he loves in a place that he loves. That's the thing that's missing from his life. That's the irony. Never saw him again. That was it. Done. Do you know what I mean? So there's physical knock on it. So if people kind of go, well, how does that possibly affect you? Well, because it directly affects your stress levels, because you've got oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin are flooding your system. When that happens, stress cannot be there. It's like showing gratitude, right? You cannot be simultaneously being thankful for something, being grateful for something, and feel stress at the same time. Okay, they'll have to alternate. So this is why gratitude practices are so important. They will affect your interoceptive network, just like social connection does, because all the nerve endings that are tweaked when you're feeling wrong inside are tweaked to feel right inside when you're socially connected to people. Plus, you've got this big hit of oxytocin. So that's people that you love. That's a huge one. Also, the vagus nerve, which is our button on what they call the parasympathetic nervous system. So in other words, the thing that will calm you down, make you take a breath, get you into that recuperative, regenerative state. that's also affected by whether your interoceptors are giving you that information. That's good. So we move in ways that we love. Okay, so exercise. I came from the exercise industry, right? But what I realized was most people had this word exercise, and they hated the thought of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're just active in a place that you love, and the activity is something that you love, boom, there we are. We have really exercise that actually matters, right? Is meaningful to you. Something that if you get lost while you're doing it in your mind, right? You lose track of time. That's the exercise that you should be doing. And let's just take that word exercise and throw it away. Call it being physically active in any way possible. If it's throwing the frisbee, or wrestling with your children, or riding your horse, or walking your dog and throwing the ball, or it's going down to the beach and splashing in the water, whatever it is, if it brings you some form of joy and you love it, so that you don't think of it under that banner, well, then that's the thing that you need to be doing more of. And that, again, all we have to do is think about it. It can be done, right?
Yeah.
It can be done.
I love this because this is so simple. And I think the challenge is, again, as always, is fitting it in. Essentially, you are prescribing joy for people.
Correct.
And, let's prescribe more joy, and let's actually make that a priority in our lives. And I'm picturing ways to do this in little short ways. Like for me, part of it is my morning stretch, just stretching up, folding forward. I know, you just reminded me, I know that I'm engaging that vagus nerve, and I love that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I still don't do it. So this is just a good reminder. And I encourage people listening in, if you currently don't have any ways that you're moving that bring you joy, find some new ways to move.
Absolutely. And so move well, find a way of getting enough water in. Genuinely it's responsible for all those neurochemical reactions in every part of your body. So find a way of doing that. And there are just too many ways out there, but I would Google it. If you really don't know, I would Google it, or just, let's have a conversation about it one day. But genuinely, some people are just in pain because they're dehydrated, right?
Yes.
So here's the physical things, right? Move well and often, but in ways that bring you joy, right? Preferably with people that you love in an environment that you love as well. Put the majority good stuff into your body, stuff that, and remember, when it comes to nutrition, they're everyone's wrong, but also everyone's right, because who knows your nutrition for you? I've just recently, for example, by a process of elimination, I've worked out that field mushrooms, which I love, give me gas, right? So I'm like, oh, well, I'm 53 years old, and I've just found out that, because that's specific to me, but that's not going to be not on my list, right? Vegetables are good. So I was like, well, find all the veggies that really suit you and that you love, and you can prepare in ways that you really, really love. But there is so many ways that we are being told, and we are never being asked. And when I say we, I'm talking about our bodies, our systems. Are we asking, okay, how are you really with broccoli? Because broccoli may actually be not great for you. That's the thing. It's just things are universally accepted across the board. But what we pretty much know is that if it's 99% sugar, that there's probably going to have an effect on you. If there's lots of it across time, it's going to have an effect on you, which is going to take you downwards, not upwards. For example, there are some almost absolutes out there. So that would be really, really good. But ways of handling stress, that's that. So stress is so specific to us. It's just like, well, how do we do that? Well, maybe what we do is we actually go to the other end and say, okay, then if joy is the antidote to stress, well, I know what brings me joy because I don't know how to handle this over here. So it's literally take your focus to things that you love, people that you love, places that you love. And how does that work for you? How does that come up the priority list? Because genuinely, it seems ridiculous and too simple. Yes. That's why it's so damn powerful.
I think that's the key thing. I was just going to say, I think as people are listening in, it can be easy to think, oh, yeah, do things that bring me joy. Yeah, right. When am I going to have time for that? That just doesn't sound substantial enough. But actually, what you are saying is absolutely, I totally agree, bang on. that's actually what we need to do. And I think perhaps the first step is to acknowledge the importance of it, and give ourselves permission to do that, whether that is getting out for half a day during the week and going golfing, because that is the thing that brings you joy, or whether it's just taking 5 minutes in the morning to walk across your lawn barefoot, which is one thing one of my clients started doing, just walking down to a back fence, touching the flowers, and then walking back in as the jug was boiling, and just grounding every day, something that brought her joy. So I love that. I mean, I feel like I know this, but I feel like this conversation today, JP, has literally personally inspired me to really focus on joy. It's been one of my words of the year that I've had over recent years, to filter everything through that word of joy, what's going to bring me joy in my work and my life. So I'm inspired. So I want to wrap up with anything else you want to add in terms of practical ideas. You've talked about the importance of gratitude, of hydration, of moving well, of nourishing ourselves well, all these things that people that have been following me for years will know I totally agree in line with. Anything else you want to add as practical things for people to take away today?
It's almost like a state of mind thing that I want to get across to people. Now, here's the thing, people. Mm-hmm. What a lot of you will be doing is saying, well, he's just talking about me time. But how low down your priority list is me time? Because somehow it's about you. So, of course, good people don't prioritize themselves, because then that's selfish. Let's just unpack that just for a moment and just go, okay, then, when you are joyful and vibrant and energetic and high performing, is that good for all of those people that you need to do things for? So, okay, let's agree that it is. Like, I know that if I'm joyful and vibrant, my family kind of like that dad, right? My 4 kids, they kind of like daddy when he's joyful and vibrant, and less so when he's depleted and stressed, because he's a bit of a grumpy person, right? So can I do better if I look after, tick a lot of those boxes for myself? Can I do more for everyone else in a better way than in any other time? Absolutely. So, of course, you probably, because you follow, we're connected on Facebook, Lauren, you'll see me at the beach almost every day, because I'm in a place where the beaches are unbelievably stunning. So going to the ocean, being barefoot on the sand, having my bare skin with salt water around it, making sure that salt water flushes out my nasal cavities. There's a number of different things that happen as a result of that. That is one of the things that I do, and I'm committed to doing, and they will allow me to leave the house in chaos sometimes, because daddy's just going to go for his swim, right? They understand it, yeah? Because they know that they'll get a better person back. So here's the thing. Those things that, in inverted commas, you think are selfish are not. They are selfless. You are doing those for yourself in order that you can be all the things that you're meant to be for everyone else. And please take that message away as deeply as you possibly can. And I want you to embody that message, take it into your hearts and minds, because it is so important for all of those people that rely on you, for you to be at your best. So prioritize that, because if you want to do the best for them, be the best for you.
Yeah, love it. Beautiful. I always say taking time for you is not selfish. It is essential. And actually not taking that time, turning up as that grumpy, impatient, tired out version of yourself, that is what is selfish. And I've had so many people, I just love this message from your heart, because it's the same message from my heart as well. I've had so many people months and even years later come back to me saying that one key truth has changed their lives. So I'm so glad that you are sharing that message, and I hope that people feel inspired by that today. Definitely.
Me too.
Permission. Do things that bring you joy. It will just be better for everyone around you and you. You deserve it. So if people wanted to find out more about you, JP, find out about your work, how can they get into it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got heaps of courses online that people can take. You don't have to be a member of the industry to be able to take them and learn. There's I do corporate work, I do online individual consults as well as corporate stuff. So, and I do travel. So the best thing is just to email me, jp@johnpolley.com.au. And that would be the easy, and just say what you're interested in, and then I'll direct you in the right way. If you just want things like, mobility tips, well-being tips, then follow me on Insta @JohnPolleyJP. And that would be that's a lot of my kind of practical, kind of physical stuff from that point of view, which has to be a starting point for everyone. Is just start doing some of this physical stuff, because everyone will accept that that's good for you.
Perfect. I love it. And obviously make sure you tune in and check out all the show notes, which we have all those links down below. So head to thrivetvshow.com and you'll be able to see all of those. So if there's one final thought you want to close with, JP, what would that be?
Really do all of the above, but prioritize yourself in order to prioritize others.
Beautiful. Nicely said. So thank you so much for your time. It's just been lovely to connect, lovely to chat and dive into just the tip of the iceberg of what is a really big topic. So thanks for your time, JP.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in. That's been another episode of the Thrive TV show. Go out and thrive.
Thank you for listening to the Thrive TV show with Lauren Parsons. Visit thrivetvshow.com to access the show notes and discover our fantastic bonus content. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next inspiring episode.